by his home country. It wasn't by any stretch of the imagination a good guy, but then the majority of people are not good, you know. 2/3 of females are paedophiles. 1/3 of males are paedophiles. That's the planet I'm on. Fuck me, man. When Jesus discovered that, he just thought, you know, fuck it. You know, I'm going to do it myself. I'm just going to stand up and take it all on. And that's what I did, you know, because McCallum told me about the police farce, hoping that I wouldn't expose myself to that experience. However, being a living Christ, right? Of course I would. And I was forewarned, and psychopaths don't know anything about a human brain, really. They try and outflank it and talk constant shit, which usually works, and pretend and point their finger at you and say, you are what I am. And as I said, disown everything just to try and score a point against your amygdala and hopefully leave a looping trauma or get you to self-examine, worry that you're a bad person, especially if they're wearing a binary jumpsuit and clown shoes. And so the thing that I'm getting to is, you know, like, Yellow River, Yellow River, right? You know, most guys would be fucking heartbroken because I genuinely cared about her. And it was like, the things that resonated with her, you know, that I can read like tells, no problem at all. Annie, the story of Annie, and another ginger girl who had a kind of orphan type lifestyle. These resonated with her, and I saw that in her, and I felt a great deal of sympathy. Also the Sydney Devine song, I'm nobody's child. You can go and listen to it yourself, but the thing is, I felt enormous true sympathy for her true self. However, she was priding herself. She imagined she'd hypnotised me and that I was falling for her imaginary projected second self, and she's standing at an angle looking at me, you know. But she would throw out ridiculous things I would have to respond to, but I can see peripherally, and she didn't know that, you know. And in one of my previous videos, I was looking straight ahead, and most people can't catch an insect anyway, but I've got lightning fast eye-hand coordination, and even peripherally, I caught an insect live in one of my things. I only noticed later on, I thought, oh aye, that's a good example of my eye-hand coordination, and I'll expose more of that in Erol on Killing, or I should maybe call it Executing, which I'll be coming to help people right across the board. So anyway, humans rather. I come back to this, right, or move on to it. Yellow River, what has that got to do with it? Well, I looked at identical twins, right, who were then born and found to be what you would class as paranoid schizophrenic. And all it means to be paranoid schizophrenic means you have a small, more primitive brain even than a psychopath tends to have. However, it's comorbid with psychopathy, about 90% of the time. And you'll have like wider ventricles and you'll have exposed wiring, so you'll start hearing things. So you'll have a kind of experience of being like much more simian than the average psychopath, so much more megalomaniacal, and therefore more sex is necessary throughout the course of the day. However, you'll tend to alienate people by behaving more bestially than human. And so, like I say, lying, evil, simian, sex offender needing shot. Lessons for you there. So, here's the thing. In the womb, identical twins, right, who had the one amniotic sac, or whatever the fuck it's called, they would come out and they would both, if one would be paranoid schizophrenic, the other would be paranoid schizophrenic. However, if they had their own separate sacs, if one came out and was paranoid schizophrenic, the other one tended not to be. Not all the time, maybe like say 40% of the time you could find the other one is too, but why that massive difference? Why is it when they share the same sac, they both come out and they're both paranoid schizophrenic, if one is, the other is? Whereas if they have separate sacs, one is and the other one tends not to be the majority of the time. Yellow River, you get the idea. Basically, what happens is the womb tries to abort them, or at least one of them. It's thinking, oh, here, I'll just go with this one. I prefer this one. You know, but this one clings on for dear life, and it starts sweating. And one of the well-documented facts about the vast majority of paranoid schizophrenics, so-called, is that they sweat a great deal. They also have, like, because they've got a small brain, they've got flattened activity and function and capacity at the front of the brain, and a very small proto-emotional incapacity, as you'd imagine, in the amygdala, where your heart and soul emanate from. And the point is, this will resonate and emanate. And what I'm pointing out to you is, so in the womb, which aborts children all the time and makes dreadful mistakes, and Zionist reptiles have tinkered with you so it makes more mistakes all the time. For example, it's testing for an X or a Y, and if it gets it the wrong way around, you're ending up being flooded with the wrong hormones, really. So you'll get estrogen if you're male, and you'll make female connections, and so basically you'll be homosexual, or at least that's what it'll be called. But essentially you have a female brain in a male body, and you will be subject to testosterone, as you'll have testicles, much more than the average female would. And conversely, with the female, you know, when she's flooded with testosterone by mistake, and then she makes male connections, and so you would call her a lesbian, but she's not, you know. She has a male brain in a female body, and these fucking paedophile cunts don't want these people to know. They want them to go with the same sex. They want an evolutionary cul-de-sac. This is what these cunts are obsessed with. Remember, stable. Right? You're cattle to these cunts, and they just want to cull you. Cull you. Every single thing your so-called fucking politicians are obsessed with is culling you. You're being culled constantly in every conceivable fucking way. Yeah. Con stable. Con everyone in the fucking stable, because you're going to be fucking culled. You're being culled right now. So my point is to I'll get onto that in a second. When the child is sweating like fuck in the womb because the womb's trying to abort it, because it's made a boo-boo, you know. The child's clinging on to this uterus for dear life, you know, Kurt Cobain in utero, right? And what happens is the sweat pours out of it. And then, remember, you're breathing underwater for the first 9 months of your life. It inhales this yellow river and goes through the lungs, right, through the capillaries and away up through the blood-brain barrier, and arrests the progress of the fucking brain by flooding that sack of amniotic fluid, whatever the fuck it's called, right? And it arrests the brain. Yeah. And it doesn't grow any further, it stays that size. So if our species wasn't being genocided in a form of megadeath right now for a quarter of a decade on top of everything that's gone before by a giant nuclear arsehole called fuck you, Shima, by all the different reactors deliberately built by Zionist spastics along a obvious earthquake fault line, every single one of them, right? And you're just going to sit there, right? You've got children you love, you've got people you love in your life, you're just going to sit there because you've been disconnected since these fucking Norman spastics showed up. Right? You've been disconnected. Oh, we like what you've evolved here, and it's been standing in good stead for 700 fucking years. But what we're going to do is we're just going to fucking disconnect that. And you've been more disconnected than you were when it was almost as good as it got, right? And basically since then, it's degenerated and degenerated and degenerated. But to finish off that last moment, so that's some of the things that have been helpful that McCallum's sent me. And as I mentioned Cheryl earlier on, I didn't let on in the last video, I haven't seen one single solitary thing that McCallum sent me. And it's been over a month now. And Cheryl has, though. Because I don't have anything. I've got a very, very private email address that nobody else on earth knows except Cheryl, right? And so Cheryl gets all my old emails that used to come to me, and I didn't know if I was going to get anything, right? And so I said to Cheryl, right, just before the last gig, right, I said, I'm going to kind of prime you as to the kind of thing that she tends to send me, right? And she was already kind of au-fait, she'd read a lot of my stuff, right? And it was just an amazing coincidence. What happened was I got something from McCallum, right, there and then, right? And I said to Cheryl, look, this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of thing that she sends me, right? And I had no idea it was from her, right? Now, I told Cheryl what we would see if it was from her, and then Cheryl thought to herself that I must have already seen this, right? And I hadn't, right? And I said to her, no, I had to reassure her, and she knows I will not tell a lie, right? I can mislead you. It has to be an overarching range of moral aims for that. I'll never deceive you, you know. And the thing is this, right? Never ever deceive anyone, or you are punishing yourself. You might just call that bad luck though. And the thing is this, so we got one of these things in, right? And I swear I didn't fucking know it was for her, right? And I said, you know, what it starts off with is basically, it'll be usually something that's along the lines of, I'm not really here, I'm not really here, you ain't seen me, and there'll usually be something that then says, you're to blame for what I'm to blame for, you are what I am, right? And then they'll usually be followed by something quite heartbreaking, which is intended to be heartbreaking, hoping to cause you PTSD, that keep this thing going eventually. However, I come to a conclusion about this in a second, right, or so. Then after the heartbreaking thing, it's your fault again, and then it's your fault that her heart's broken. Then it's like, oh, I don't give a fuck anyway, I never liked you anyway. And then it's something insulting, or would be insulting, and she's in a glass house with no self-awareness, and then it's something like usually off the wall, and you either get it or you don't, like Yellow River, and then it's something along the lines of, ha, I've drawn you down to the microdot again, then, I'm away, get to fuck, right? And I said this to Cheryl, right? And before my fucking eyes, I thought, this is for her, you know. And so basically she logs in through TeamViewer 8, I think it is, and we're on, I think it is, and so she's looking at my screen, right, and I'm assuring her, I'm telling her, like, this, I had no idea, you know. And basically at the very top of it, in this one, it was motorbikes, right? And then I remembered all the fucking tells that I'd got from her, and whenever I'd mentioned motorbikes, right? So I put this into maybe why she has had an accident, and she's had some of her brain removed and things like that, blah, 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 blah. I think she had an aneurysm as well. So she had a lot of problems with hurting her brain, basically. Also, her sister hurt her brain for her. And so on. Just basically, she's had a lot of brain damage. And I think harrowingly as well, she went into an asylum. I think there was an intervention and she went in either way. And when she was there, she was raped repeatedly by the so-called orderlies, which, if I was her, I would take them to task, you know. However, she wasn't in her right mind. And like I say, they're rampant all the time. And so a good-looking blonde lassie, or strawberry blonde, whatever, ginger, you know, our orangutan, strawberry blonde. The thing is, I thought this resonated as a tell when I spoke about these kind of things to her, and that's what I'm going on. And once again, she could have been misleading, but they were rather obvious tells. And so her entire life has been a series of being punished by the moral law of the universe, which she puts down to bad luck, because she's nihilistic, as there's no real meaning at the front of her brain, really. There's just a kind of like instinctive type of behaviour, really. And it's kind of soulless. However, she does have a fucking heart in there somewhere. I've noticed that with them, you know. But the point is this, right? If you don't mind me finishing my point, you fucking cunt. Right? Right? She gave these useful people, if you can be non-reactionary when you're going through this, right? If I committed a volume of offences against you and tried to cause you brain damage, hoping that you would kill yourself because I couldn't dominate you, use you, get in a relationship with you, get what I want from that, and blah, blah, blah. Imagine me still sending you shit, and we're coming to the most important bit about this. Right, So I was looking through this, and sure as fuck it was from her, right? And it was the same MO, it matched everything to a fucking T. Like an AC/DC song, her implying that she's bisexual. She's lived a bisexual lifestyle, but she's the most female I've ever encountered in my fucking life. And I've seen more different females bare arses than you've eaten meringues. And the thing is this, right? Right? Oh, it sounds quite good, doesn't it? Fuck me. I wouldn't mind having as many bare... I'm telling you, you're taking your life in your own hands. Thing is, right? Right? So, these tells are coming out of this, and it was AC/DC, and it was a song I told her I didn't like, so I'd heard it on a really loud, tinny car radio, and it was bagpipes, but unbeknownst to her, a few weeks before that, I'd actually listened to it and quite liked it, because I'd seen it for the first time as a video through Good Speakers, right? And so, I think she was trying to imply that I should give up music. Right? The kind of cheeky shite, talentless people who are psychopaths tend to suve, when they're in the glass house trying to throw stones from inside the glass house, and I'm standing on top of the Andes with boulders. Right? So here's the thing. Also, I think it's telling her life story, so it depends how you want to interpret it. And eventually it gets to Adele, right? And the first time I ever worked out that she was a ginger, right? She had ginger hair, she showed up as a blonde, was something I've not seen for about 2 years now, right? My monitor's enormous, however, I'm short-sighted, so I magnify the screen a bit. So the right-hand side has been missing for 2 years, so I haven't got one tell from the right-hand side of my YouTube channel's pages, right? And she used to put very, very helpful hints up there, right? Because when she would watch one of my videos, if it was relatively new, whatever she watched next, which is a good marketing play, would come up on the right-hand side. And then she would see me going and watching that, because she'd hacked my computer, so she'd see what I was doing and study my behaviour, and then always be moving the dog's bowl in her mind, and I'm having to endure that for this cheeky wee bastard, and cheeky wee bitch, it's always transference. You are what I am. However, my ability to be non-reactionary to a Tibetan level, right, really helped me. However, when you find out that the majority of people on this planet are sex offenders needing shot, Jesus went for it. However, unlike Jesus, who has an almost identical, slightly less evolved, but almost identical brain to myself, and almost identical life story as well, he didn't have Ryanair waiting on the runway for him with everything he owned, able to be wrapped up in these two gigantic sheets, right? And the thing is this, right? If I'd got a female when I was putting this through this kind of x-ray thing, I wouldn't have been able to leave at that time, right? And everything was precision timed by the moral law of the universe. I'll go over it perhaps in another video. The thing is this, right? It was a guy, he x-rayed it, and imagine putting the contents of an entire house into these two sheets and just walking on Ryanair with it. You alright with that? Right? The guy looked at it, looked at me and went, "Just a guitar then," And so, it was quite funny. So, and oh man, I'll come to it, right? So there's so much to try and squeeze into this one. I might have to get on to another one. Nonetheless, right? So, so I'm enduring these things. It's no problem to me. It's just, she might as well make a potato painting, and then write, "You are what I am. Stop everything you're doing. You're a 90-year-old fool." Or shit like that, And then, "I miss you. and I bleed tears, you know. Eat my dinner, Erol, I've painted it on a plate in the distance. Right? So basically, you'd have to watch the last video. I'm not gonna. Fuck off then. So the point is this, right? I'm showing Cheryl this, right? And sure as fuck, it's all unfolding exactly as I said it would. The exact same. Because I've seen this pattern over and over and over again. The thing that stayed with me was, like I say, down the right hand side of the screen, which I've not seen for about 2 years, there was a video just before I left Scotland she put up, just after I had announced publicly what she eventually then phoned the police force for. And down the right hand side was this, I know I stand in line, but do you think you have the time to spend an evening with me? Go and see it, right? It's Tom Cruise's ex-partner, Nicole Kidman, and Robbie Williams, right? And it's a comedy video, and at the very end he goes, boom, and she flies through the window. So she's got this kind of rich sense of humour, because I had, voluminously let it out of the bag what she is and put it up on my website, right? And so that's the first time I started to think, I think she was ginger. But I originally thought she had no teeth, but then she put up a song by a Scottish singer who is just not good enough, man. You know, like, imagine Alex Harvey, right? And then this guy, Paolo Nutini, he's like something that's been poured out of one of Alex Harvey's Johnny bags at the back of a fucking, VD clinic. He's just, and she put up a song by him, right? And it said, I've got all my own teeth. And it was this kind of like, she was expecting me to pursue her so she could then goad me. And this is what they're truly thinking. And I had to magnify and amplify these animalcules thought patterns. They have tiny, tiny minds, provably, as I mentioned, with proto-emotions and narrow pathology. You'll have to maybe look at some of my other videos. I'm trying to squeeze a lot in here. Get on me out then! What have I told you? So, the point is this, right? So because of the lyrics in this Paolo Nutini song, I thought, she must have her own teeth. I'd got it into my head because of a tale she gave about my grandmother when she was in a coffin and she had false teeth in, they were slightly protruding. She did have slightly too big teeth for her mouth and at that time. And so I didn't realise she was a heroin addict. I don't know if she was still practising or whether it was cocaine. I know she was an alcoholic. But the point is, I didn't know how to cope with all these different things because they were hidden by her as reading tales, and I'd had to have known everything to help this stupid cunt, because I would have fucking genuinely helped her as a friend, but I wouldn't have known, you see, what I know now about her. And like I say, she thought she'd to con this out of me, and I was like willing to give it to her, like for past reasons as well as her true sob story, as well as her false sob story, and because of her true attentions to me as well as her false attentions to me, and so on. So she then took to sending me messages down the right hand side of YouTube, but like I say, I've not looked at it for years, because like I say, she gets high, she believes she's bullying you, she believes she's drawing your attention down. If she wakes up and feels bad that she's not in your life, she then wants to contact you to try and get you to feel bad about her not being in your life. The best way to do that is to seduce you with what I showed Cheryl, right? And it was one of the last songs she put on a channel she had called Toot Sweet 420 on YouTube, and that was her name on UK 420, where I caught her grooming a guy to go around and commit huge offences against him. He was just out of hospital, so I'll move on from that. But the point is, the thing that she had on this thing I was showing Cheryl was Adele. It was one of the last things she put up before she put up an Asian boy playing the ukulele even, and a famous song of cheeriness, and to imply that she's a 5-year-old or 3-year-old boy in a woman's body. It's kind of how she sees herself. But as I've said, she's actually a primitive kind of cave woman, really, in the modern era. And those people tend to be your leaders. But there's such a divided and destroyed and dissected and disconnected society. There's nowhere for them to prosper. And so they start getting stressed and they're not having enough sex because they're trying to control people around them, including their partner and so on. And so they turn to drink or other ways of getting this satiation or thrill seeking. And like I say, they're released from these lunatic asylums routinely. Got another one. So it took you twice to do that one though. So it was Adele again, and it was Rolling in the Deep. We could have had it all, and then Set Fire to the Rain, which was the second last song I ever saw on the channel. Like I say, I've not looked for any of her messages down the right hand side, and so she's probably sent like loads and loads of messages like for years, and I haven't even looked at one of them. So the thing is this, right? One of the things that I didn't know whether to conclude in my absolutist thinking about or not was, could I be wrong, in thinking that she's ever cared about her fantasy of me, or the reality that she remembers of me, and the fantasy she has about sharing a reality with me. Is that all just bullshit to try and draw your attention down and make you feel how she feels, to delude herself she's a supreme being, and so on and so forth, and she's conned you and made you feel how it feels to be hard and even after all her offences. But don't forget, like I say, 2/3 of females being paedophiles. Just disown it and move on, right? And don't see themselves as being a bad person, because like I say, it's not hands-on, it's emotional and psychological abuse which they get sexual relief from, which is worse than physical abuse in many cases. And so I know this, and the paedophile ring who've got all the facts and figures know this, right? And what do they try and engineer then, socially? They try and engineer for females who are predominantly megalomaniacal psychopaths missing cognitive empathy, right, a core component in your left frontal lobe. Try and engineer a scenario where they will be left alone with children. And if you look at the statistics for single parent, female, left alone with children, invariably, the vast majority of them, 90% of them, are abused and then fall into all the traps set for them by these Zionist pieces of shite, Is that alright, old Les? So,